The Eagles lost. The 49ers lost. The Cowboys win. How about them Cowboys? Myles was there in the press box, hearing the Spanish language call from the Cowboys radio crew in the press box. How are you doing today, Myles?
Well, good morning, Mike. Yeah, I've covered, over the last 10 years, let's say 150 games in a press box, and I have never experienced anything like that in my life. That was bizarre. It was weird. I was also sitting next to a very nice gentleman from Germany who happened to be covering the game. So I've got Spanish stuff down the aisle basically from me. And I have a nice gentleman from Germany who also was talking to me about these. Still oh man, the Chargers, and they've got all these Cowboys fans here. Is it normally like this? Is it like this with the Rams? I'm like, heck yeah, man. When there's a big fan base coming in, it gets invaded by the other team. And then we've got this, and it was so bizarre. Every time something good would happen, it's just straight yelling, and it reverberates throughout the press box. It was one of the most weird experiences I have ever had covering a football game. But yeah, this
is not a criticism of the Spanish language call in any way, shape, or form.
They were doing their jobs, and they were fantastic. And I don't speak Spanish, but they were into the game. They were enthusiastic. They were really, really good at what they were doing. It's just that their job conflicts with everybody else's job with where they were. And I don't understand why in this state-of-the-art palatial building that is SoFi Stadium, why there is not a place for the Spanish radio call to go that is not inside the writers' area of the press box. I have covered dozens or so, maybe a dozen, let's call it, games at that stadium, including the 2021 NFC Championship game. And I'm pretty sure 49ers have a Spanish language broadcast, and it certainly was not in the press box. So I just, the whole logistics of that really confused me.
And at the risk of sounding like the baseball purist writers crowd that had their nose out of joint last week because, God forbid, somebody reported something they actually heard in the clubhouse, this is different. And I'm in a press box once per year for the Super Bowl, if that. Yes. Sometimes the request for my credential doesn't go through, and sometimes we have to do a little hustling, as we did at SoFi Stadium for Super Bowl 56, but I digress. Mm-hmm. It is a quiet, not library-type setting, but it is different from being on the other side of the glass that separates the writers covering the game from the fans. And it's no different than the coach's booth that we see shots of throughout the game. It is a working environment. Writers are there to watch the game, study the game, chart the plays, look for the angles and the issues that they're going to pursue in the locker room after the game. It is an office. It is not a fan area. It is not a TV studio. It is not a radio studio. And the idea that at this state-of-the-art stadium, Stan Kroenke's $6 billion pride and joy, they don't have a spot for the Cowboys to have a radio crew. And it doesn't matter whether it's Spanish, English, German, French, whatever. Yeah. The fact that you have people calling the game in a way that is biased in favor of the Cowboys because that's the way these things go, that violates the most basic rule of any press box. No cheering in the press box. The mere act of calling the game when you are employed by one of the teams involves the homerish aspect of reacting in a very over-the-top way. That's how it works. It would be like having Paul Allen and Pete Bursich in the press box calling a Vikings 100%. Game. It's the same thing. It goes completely against what the whole press box vibe is about. People used to complain about Bill Polian sitting in the press box rooting for the Cowboys and complaining about bad calls, and it is complete and total breach of press box etiquette. This is 1,000 times worse. I don't get it. And I don't know whether it was because ESPN had an alternate feed last night because they had a Spanish language broadcast because it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and they had an ESPN2 feed with the alternate. That's what I thought it was at first. It's like, what's going on here? Maybe they got bumped. Maybe they got bumped by that. And so instead of just saying, sorry, Cowboys, just put them out in the crowd. I don't know. It would have worked better if they were out in the crowd, for crying out loud. Maybe not for them, but for the people in the press box. To me, and of course, the average fan is going to say, do your job. But no, think about trying to do your job, wherever your job is, when you have that kind of a distraction for the entire time you're trying to do your job. It's not part of the job of covering any sporting event with a credential in a press box, because it's supposed to be quiet enough that you can do your job. Anyway, people are going to be upset that we're complaining about it, but I wasn't even there, and I'm thinking, this just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It's like having somebody working a jackhammer in a press box. I mean, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah. It was like I said, it was weird. It was an odd experience. I've never done anything like that. And like to be clear, and you already said this, like, it's not a criticism of those gentlemen who were doing a great job of their job, right? The one, I don't speak Spanish, but the one thing I did get was "Donde está Waldo?" It's CD Lamb. Like, I got that. Yeah, where's Waldo?
Oh, that's
baby?
funny. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's good.
CD Lamb. He's always open. He is just like Jamar Chase, man. Always effing open.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.